A little kid said to her grandma, "Grandma, can you make a noise like a frog?" Grandma said, "I suppose. What do you want me to do that for?" "Well, Dad said, when you croak, we'll be rich." I warn you, I may cough. I don't know I'm coughing. I have a lung condition called bronchiectasis. It doesn't make me sick, but it's good for my doctor's prayer life. She puts the stethoscope over and she goes, "Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God." Lovely lady, she told me recently that I was obese. She's, "Graham, you're obese." I said, "Well, I'm a bit over, you know." She said, "No, you're obese. What are you going to do about it?" I said, "Change doctors for a start." Call me names. You ready? I'm going to squash in a day's conversation into the next 17 minutes. Here we go. I want to draw a graph for you that goes like this. This is the graph of normal, healthy human life. And it goes like this. It's the way of nature. It's like awake, asleep, awake, asleep. Intimacy, longing. Intimacy, longing. And what I'm telling you is that's the way it should be. I'm telling you that's the way it is, but that's the way it should be. The impulse to say I can hit intimacy and just keep it, you know, we'll fall in love and it'll be happily ever after, that's the impulse of an addict. So let me tell you how this works. In a number of ways. Let's start with relationships, and just trust me, eventually we'll get to hope. And spirituality, that'll be fun. Me talking on spirituality, that's a first. Anyway, let's go. Intimacy. I've been married to the same girl for 43 years, something like that. And my theory is the maximum length that a marriage can last is a day. Because intimacy is lost. Intimacy should be lost. Intimacy is always lost. And you move from intimacy to longing. By the way, the difference between the expectation of an addict and what happens in real life, that difference is called depression, which is the disease of our age. So what happens is my wife and I can be as one. And I don't mean sexually. We can just be together and I know I'm home. We can be together and I know that I'm not me without her. But what happens is I become smarter and smarter and smarter. Till eventually I'm an authority on this girl. When we're intimate, I'm never an authority. What I know is no thing. When I know Robin, what I know is no thing. She's not a thing. And when you function up here, what you know is no thing. But eventually you become smart, and I form ideas about Robin, and my ideas become clearer and clearer until eventually I'm in a position where I can offer her advice. I can tell her how to be a better wife. I'm so smart. I can make a diagnosis for her. I can tell you about her parents and her background and all of that sort of stuff. I can tell you everything about her. And as I move from intimacy to longing, I just become the smartest person in the world. Now, this is a process under which we all undergo. And you can function down here When you function here, you know you're always using the first person plural, we, our. When you're down here, you never use that. It's me, I. Up here, I'm always surprised, and this woman fills the heavens for me. Down here, I think, why don't you meet my needs properly? If I ever find my way out of here, if I can ever be captured by who she is again, what I have to do is forsake my idea of her. Because Robin is always greater than my idea of her. We're not in the red already, are we? No, okay, keep going. This is kind of true also for corporate life. In corporate life, you move from mission to wishing, to mission to wishing. And when you're in the wishing stage, mission is 1,000,000 miles away. That has to happen. That has to happen. What makes a good leader is someone who knows that when you're in the wishing stage, it's not the end of the world. It's in the wishing stage that you sort out your stuff. But if you stay in that stage, you may manage things well, but your grave will be in nothingness. It's so easy to just keep managing and not be caught by the awesome that started this mission in the first place. So in corporate life, we become smarter and smarter and smarter until eventually we've lost our mission, and what we do now is say, if only everybody would follow my instincts and my directions, we'd be okay. So, let's talk about how we get out of that. By the by, it's true for churches too. We're in a church. I've left the car running. All churches begin by an encounter with the divine, and they all tend towards becoming a cult. What do cults do? Well, they're smart. They develop check boxes and they work out who's in and out. They become an authority on God. God becomes the commodity that they're going to franchise to the world. When they encounter the divine, they haven't got anything to say. They're struck dumb. So how do we get from... Let me say something about spirituality too. In my view, in this graph, here we're talking about life in the spirit. Down here we're talking about spirituality. Because when I'm talking about spirituality, I rarely say us, we, our. I usually say my experience. Lost as they come. So how do we get out of this? We have to be captured again by the awesome. How are you captured by the awesome? Well, you have to stop being a smarty pants. This is how you know that you live at this level, when you continually find yourself the smartest person in the room. You might be smart, but you're lost. You need to be captured again by the awesome. And one of my worries about a day like today, and I haven't heard the other speakers, so if I tread on toes, I'm sorry. I think we welcome people into a maze if we say that hope is some kind of psychological phenomenon. That if the way to life is through motivation or any inner anything. It's about being captured by something which is bigger than anything that's inner. Now, the invitation into the awesome You can only travel to your destiny. You can only travel to the awesome. You can only get there by invitation. This is a party to which you can only come by invitation. If you could conjure it up, you would be deluding yourself and comforting yourself with all kinds of delusional, psychological babble. So that the awesome must be bigger than you, and it must be an invitation to which you respond. But the invitation into the awesome is always present, always present. And the way we miss it is by simply just being busy. It's not because we're bad. Jesus told a story about a guy who threw a party, and the guys who missed the party were the ones who, when I was a kid, we used to say married a wife and married a cow and bought a wife or something. They were just people doing business. They were just taking care of business. They were people who were living here. And yet a man was inviting them to the party. The present is always present. The present one is always present. And the awesome is always here, always inviting you. But mostly we miss it because we're just doing business. How are we going? I've got time, I think, to give you one more hit. I'm worried about this thing. Is it red?
No. 7 minutes.
Oh, cool. I can tell you everything I know in 7 minutes. Cop this. The fundamental human unit is two. Now, there's nothing hard about these words, but you will struggle to swallow them because it's against the culture. Our culture says we glorify the power of one, and it's a trap, it's a nightmare. It's the world in which we live. We've privatised everything. Now, I'm telling you, the fundamental human unit is two, which is why when we're up here, we always speak in the we and the our. And it's why when we're lost, we talk about my philosophy, my wisdom, my people, my... The fundamental human unit is two. Did you notice Jesus did not say, wherever you find somebody with a sincere heart? Jesus did not say, wherever you find someone who's truly authentic. He said, minimum number 2 or 3. And there am I. We are wired to be social things. And so the word I only ever describes half of something. And at Wayside Chapel, we constantly, I don't want to overstate it, but we see some of the most dramatic turnarounds that you could ever possibly imagine. But they happen when somebody just wakes up to say, there are others with me and for me. You know, Jesus passed by this tax collector up in the tree, and he didn't say, now, if you just sort out your theology of Trinity, if you just kind of get this God thing right, what did he say? I'm coming home to lunch. I was leaving Wayside one day, and there was a working girl who I didn't know. Not many clergy claim to know all the working girls. Unless you go to one of those clergy retreats. That's a joke. That's a joke. Anyway, I didn't know this girl, and I was trying to leave, and I was in a hurry, and she said to me, what have you got to do to get a gig around here? She meant a voluntary role. And I fobbed her off because I didn't have time. I said, you have to believe the world could be a better place. And she started physically jumping up and down, said, that's me, you've got to give me a go. Now, she'd had 15 years in massage parlours and she was good on the phone. So I put her on our telephone. And she was way better than who we had on the telephone. Over a period of time, months, maybe 2 months, 3 months, she came to me and she said, I want an ordinary job. She said, and you have to help me write a CV. 15 years in a massage parlour. I found customer relations covered a multitude of things. And she got a job. And within a few months, she got a better job. And the moral of the story is, no one ever said to her, you know, you need to clean your act up. You know, you're on a bad path. Nobody ever gave her that sermon. Nobody. What happened was, by a miracle of grace, she was captured by the awesome. She realised that there were others with her and for her, and then by her own steam moved towards health, and that's how it always works.
Right.
And I reckon that's probably enough, don't you think?
That's right.
Really? Serious?
2.5.
All right. I wish I could, in fact, let me just go over rather than go to new ground. I could do this all day, but I think sometimes what I say is so easily you say yes to it, but because we live in a culture that we live in, you've said yes, but it never drops to the heart. Because this is the graph of normal human life, the hardest people in the world for you to love are the ones you know the best. Because your ideas are fixed. You know them. You're an expert in them. Now, there's a time and a place for this. You need this, you know, this is a curve you need to go through. There are times when, as a parent, you ought to be saying to this child, do not cross the road, and you're managing this child. But there's no fun in being a parent until you're caught by the awesome. I'm a granddad now. What could be better than that? I took a little girl to McDonald's. Her mother doesn't like McDonald's much. But I'm a grandfather. We run under different rules. And I took this little girl to McDonald's and I said, what do you want, darling? She said, everything. So I got one of everything. And we came home and we had relays of bags and bags of shit into the house while their mother's looking at me saying, what kind of grandfather are you? Now, in a way, I could have managed that better. But I created an awesome moment that this kid will never forget. When she's an old lady, she'll tell that story. When she was a little girl once, she said to me, Papa, can I tell you a secret? I said, oh, okay. She said, bum. It was the rudest word she knew. So we used the word all day. See that lady going past there? She's got a big bum. On the way home, she said, we won't tell Mum really what we've been saying. I said, all right, sweetheart, we won't tell them. So I pulled outside their house. She got out of the car and she ran through the front door to her mother and she said, Papa said bum. I got framed. The invitation into the awesome is always present. You won't believe this, but it's present in the people you think you know the best. If only you would stop being such a smart ass. I'm serious. When we start someone at Wayside Chapel, we often put them in the cafe and they know on their first day, they know that if you offer a cup of coffee to someone on the worst day of their lives and you do it generously and with a smile, it's worth more than a session with a psychiatrist. On the second day, that volunteer knows that as well. On the third day, they might know it. On the fourth day, what matters is who put the bloody sugar there. It's what happens. A good leader is one who's not alarmed by that. A good leader is one who knows that all is not lost. The mission didn't go far away. It's just that we forgot to respond to the invitation. The awesome is always present. Is somebody mucking around with that clock? I definitely think that's done. Is that enough? Okay.